The tray table snapped shut with a loud clack. All eyes turned. Not because of the sound, but because of who made it. He didn't flinch. He never flinched. The man in seat 1A, dressed in a charcoal three-piece suit, sat still as stone. His ticket sat on the armrest. First class. No dispute. No confusion. And yet, the flight attendant standing in front of him looked like she was staring down a threat. "You need to move," she said. Her voice was brittle, like glass. The plane hadn't even left the gate at Highland Terminal in Montera. Sunlight painted the cabin in soft gold. But inside that front row, the air turned sharp. Heavy, like pressure before a storm. "I'm fine here," he said quietly. That was it. Just that. 4 words. Calm. Factual. But she took a step closer, posture stiffening. One hand rested near the service panel. Her knuckles were white. "This seat is reserved." He turned his head, slowly, met her eyes, then pointed, without words, to the ticket stub resting near his hand. 1A Zone 1. Premium class. Verified. A few murmurs started behind him. Other passengers. Watching. Still, she didn't back down. She leaned in now, voice lower. "I need you to comply, or I'll have to involve the captain." The man, Darren Elridge, exhaled. Long, slow. He didn't raise his voice. "Check your manifest again." It was a simple request. Reasonable. But she flinched. Like she'd been slapped. "I know what I'm looking at," she snapped. "I need you to move. Now." That's when it shifted. The whole mood of the cabin. From awkward to something else. Uneasy. A man near the bulkhead unbuckled and stood. Another leaned into the aisle, phone raised. Recording. Just in case. Because this wasn't right. Everyone could feel it. But the attendant pressed on. "Sir, if you don't move, I'll have you removed." Then something flickered in her eyes. Recognition? Fear? No, worse. Guilt. She recognized him. And she hadn't expected him to be him. Not here. Not on her shift. Not on this flight. Still, she pushed forward. "Security will be called if you..." "I'm the chief executive officer," he said suddenly. It wasn't loud. He didn't make a scene. He just said it, like a statement of weather. Or gravity. Her lips parted. But no sound came out. It hit her too late. She'd already committed. The lie was already halfway out the door. And now everyone knew. The CEO of Verdun Air. The company etched into the wing outside. The one whose logo glowed on every employee badge. The one who'd been on every financial news channel for the last 2 months. Darren Elridge. The man hired to reform a bleeding airline. And she had just tried to eject him. The silence shattered as someone behind them laughed. Not a happy laugh. A disbelieving one. The phone kept recording. Her radio buzzed. And then, too fast, 2 security officers appeared in the aisle. She backed up, hands trembling now. "He refused to move," she whispered. One of the guards hesitated. The other didn't. They stepped toward him. "Sir, we need you to step off the aircraft. No explicación. No verification. No names. Just muscle." Darren stood. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He lifted the ticket, handed it over. "I'll wait at the gate," he said. He left quietly. Passengers stared. No one else moved. And the phone kept recording. 3 hours later, the video hit Streamburst at 4:17 p.m. By 4:28, it was on 3 national news sites. By 5:10, the airline's official social media accounts posted a vague statement. "We are aware of the incident involving one of our employees and a passenger. We are investigating the situation internally and have temporarily relieved the employee of duty." No name. No apology. No mention of who the passenger was. But by 6 p.m., everyone knew. And the internet exploded. The boardroom at Verdun HQ was glass-walled and quiet. Until the shouting started. "Do you understand what just happened?" barked Corwin Blaine, head of operations. The executives at the table looked anywhere but at each other. "This was our CEO," he continued. "He was assaulted. On our own aircraft." The general counsel cleared her throat. "There's no physical harm." "The footage shows contact," Corwin cut in. She pushed him. He sat down again. She called security. They removed him. With force. The silence that followed was worse than yelling. Then a voice from the end of the table, cold and measured. "He hasn't spoken." Everyone turned. It was Jessa Varn, head of PR. No interviews. No tweets. No posts. No statements. Not even internally. He hasn't returned a single message. Corwin's jaw tightened. "Maybe he's done with us." Another executive piped up. Should we prepare a succession? No, Corwin said sharply. He's not going anywhere. But he didn't sound sure. Gate 12. Montera Airport. Darren stood beside a column. No one noticed him. He wore the same suit. The same calm. The same storm beneath the surface. He watched passengers come and go. Watched gate agents fumble apologies into radios. Watched a new flight crew hustle in late, sweat behind their masks. He didn't say a word, but his phone buzzed. And buzzed again. Dozens of unread messages. A call from the chairman. Voicemails from the press. But he ignored them all. Because he wasn't angry. He was curious. Curious how deep the rot went. Because that wasn't just incompetence back there. That was something else. A deliberate move. A power play. And it failed. He opened his email. Scrolled past the noise. Found the internal security memo. There it was. Someone had flagged him as unauthorized. Flagged. Hours before the flight. By name. And it hadn't been random. Not a glitch. A manual entry. Done by someone with internal access. He tapped the ID log. The access came from HQ. Someone on the executive floor. Someone inside. He stared at the screen. Long and hard. Then he closed the phone. And smiled. 6 days later. Veritan's quarterly earnings call was scheduled to begin in 5 minutes. The boardroom was packed. Cameras on. Teleprompters ready. Except there was no CEO in sight. Whispers spread. People checked watches. Then, footsteps. Darren entered. No notes. No entourage. Just him. He stepped up to the podium. Before we begin, he said, I'd like to address something not in the earnings report. The room tensed. Lenses clicked. Pens froze. He looked out across the executives, the board, the shareholders, and he spoke. Clear. Controlled. Unforgiving. On Flight 2037 from Montera to Halwell, I was removed from my seat by company security after being misidentified as a threat. This happened despite holding a valid first-class ticket and despite identifying myself calmly and professionally. He paused. Many assumed I would issue a statement, or a lawsuit, or accept an apology. Another pause. But I've chosen something else. He clicked a remote. The screen behind him lit up. A company flowchart. Dozens of positions, with red circles around 5 specific names. 5 internal clearances were used to flag my name manually before the flight. All 5 were authorized from within this company. Gasps. Movement. 2 board members stood. What is this? He ignored them. Clicked again. Another screen. Employee reports. Internal messages. 1 marked confidential. This company doesn't need a PR repair. It needs a purge. Chaos now. Half the board shouting. 2 others already leaving their seats. A camera was still rolling. Darren never flinched. Never looked away. I came here to change things, he said. And I'm just getting started. Outside Veritan HQ. The media vans were already parked. Reporters waiting. Producers calling upstairs. But inside, down 1 level, beneath the CEO's office, a small secured door closed with a heavy click. Inside was a conference room with no windows. Dim light. 1 long table. 6 seats. 5 were filled. Darren entered last. The others nodded. 1 slid a folder across the table. He opened it. Inside were printouts, flight logs, internal emails, meeting transcripts, and a photo of someone on the board, smiling, shaking hands, with someone from a rival airline. Darren didn't blink. He looked up. They wanted me gone. He leaned forward. They made a mistake. The others nodded again. No one spoke. They didn't have to. This wasn't just an airline story anymore. This was war. And it had already started. He should have known they'd be waiting. Ellis stepped off the elevator into a wall of silence. No greetings. No eye contact. Just rows of turned backs and half-shut doors. His own company now foreign. Fletcher was already inside his old office. Behind Ellis's desk. Like he belonged there. Ellis didn't flinch. Get out of my chair. Fletcher smiled without smiling. It's not yours anymore. Wrong, Ellis said. I built this airline from scrap. You don't own me. You built it. You also lost control of it. Ellis looked past him, at the wall where his father's flight badge used to hang. Gone. You're digging your own grave, Wes. No, Fletcher said, standing now. You did that. When you got on that flight. When you made a scene. I was dragged off. Sure you were, Fletcher said, reaching into a folder. But the footage says otherwise. He tossed down stills from the plane. Grainy. Edited. Ellis looked. His face twisted. Angry. His hand raised. But not striking. I never hit her. No one's saying you did, Fletcher said. But you scared her. Publicly. Visibly. You know how this looks. Ellis didn't blink. I know exactly how it looks. Then you know why the board met last night. Without you. That was it. They were moving. Fletcher leaned forward. They want you out. Not just from Daystar. From the board. From everything. They're calling it a leadership lapse. A brand liability. Ellis stepped closer. This is personal. Fletcher shrugged. You made it personal when you started checking contracts. When you asked too many questions. Ellis froze. So this is about the missing funds. Fletcher said nothing. But the stillness said everything. Ellis leaned in, voice low. I'm not going anywhere. Fletcher didn't stop him when he walked out. He didn't need to. Ellis was already late. The noose was tightening. The hallway to legal was darker than usual. Half the lights were off. Someone had cut power to the east wing. Ellis kept walking. He knew the truth. Knew where the hole in the budget was. Knew which plane was missing a maintenance log. Knew which contract didn't have a signature. He also knew who buried them. But he needed proof. Real proof. He turned the corner and stopped. Gretchen, his general counsel, was slumped outside her office. Her glasses were cracked. A bruise bloomed across her temple. Gretchen! She lifted her head weakly. They were here. Who? She shook her head. Said I had something I wasn't supposed to. Ellis helped her up. What did you have? Emails. Fletcher's emails. Internal approvals. Payments to fake vendors. Ellis's stomach turned. You saved them? She nodded slowly. In the archive drive. My old laptop. Not the one on the desk. They both turned toward her office. The door was off its hinges. Papers everywhere. Drawers gutted. The desk laptop still smoking. Backup drive? Ellis asked. Gretchen hesitated. Then pointed. The plant. He blinked. What? She coughed. Fern on the window. Base is hollow. He sprinted over, ripped it out, twisted the pot. Inside, plastic-wrapped drive. Still warm. Still untouched. He grabbed it. We're getting you out, he told her. But when he turned, she was already out cold. By the time Ellis reached the garage, it was raining. Hard. He popped the back seat, tucked Gretchen inside, and peeled out of the underground lot before anyone else could see them. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. No voice. Just static. Then click. Then a single line. She wasn't the first. The call dropped. Ellis stared at the screen. No number. No trace. Another buzz. This time a message. A video file. He pulled over. Watched. It showed a woman. Mid-40s. Flight crew uniform. Same badge as the one from Flight 4109. She was in a hotel hallway. Crying. Talking into the camera. He threatened to ruin me if I said anything. Said I forged the inspections. But I didn't. I just signed what they gave me. Her hands shook. Then footsteps. She looked up. The video cut. No name. No location. Just time-stamped, 3 months ago. Ellis swallowed hard. They'd done this before. The scandal wasn't about him. It was about hiding something worse. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the airfield. Not Daystar's main terminal, one of their old hangars. The first one he leased when he started the company. No cameras. No guards. He parked, stepped into the rain, and used his key card. Still worked. Inside, it was dark. Musty. The air smelled like fuel and rust. He booted up the laptop. Plugged in Gretchen's drive. It whirred. Loaded. Emails. Invoices. Documents signed under fake names. Approval codes routed through dummy firms. Payments linked to maintenance that never happened. Million. He kept digging. Then he saw it. Flight 4109. His flight. The logs had been altered, but not erased. Someone had left a note in the metadata. Emergency failsafe disabled. Unchecked. He froze. That plane, his plane, had been scheduled for service. Service it never got. The same plane he was forcibly removed from. It hadn't been about the altercation. They were trying to keep him off a plane that was set to crash. His phone buzzed again. Another number. This time he recognized it. Janine, head of PR. One of the few who hadn't turned on him. He answered. Where are you? She asked. Voice shaky. Safe. For now. You need to listen, she said quickly. The board's spinning a new story. Says you forged inspection documents yourself. They're calling it whistleblower retaliation. That's a lie. I know, she said. But they're already feeding it to the press. What about Fletcher? He's being groomed as interim CEO. Ellis laughed once, cold. He's the one who buried the inspections. I know, she whispered. But they've got leverage. What kind? His sister. Her son's on a ventilator. Daystar's paying the bills. Ellis went still. So they own him? Yeah. He rubbed his jaw. Thought fast. Janine, can you get to the archive? Already tried. It's wiped. I've got a copy. Silence. Then you need to go public, she said. Now. Ellis shook his head. Not yet. Not until I know what else they're hiding. You don't have time. Then I'll make time. He drove back into the city, back to the corporate district, but didn't go in the main entrance. He took the alley behind the old HQ building. Found the basement access. Inside, it was dead quiet. Dust. Pipes. Old storage crates. He followed the red line on the floor. It led to the server vault. He swiped his card. Denied. Pulled out the master key. Override code. The door opened. Inside, racks of servers, blinking in the dark. He found the one marked FLTRP archive. Hooked up the drive. Downloaded the copy. Then he saw the hidden folder. Encrypted. Labeled only. X13 AUD. He hesitated. Entered the override password Gretchen had given him. It unlocked. Inside, audio files. Pilot comms. He clicked the top one. Static. Then voices. Control, this is Flight 4109. We've got a discrepancy in the navigation system. Copy that, 4109. Clarify discrepancy. We're reading off-route vectors. Possible GPS spoofing. Ellis leaned in. Another voice. Calm. Cold. Not a pilot. Override in progress. Maintain course. Pilot. What? Who is wait, who authorized? Click. Silence. He clicked the next. It was a different flight. Different date. Same issue. 5 files in total. All showed the same thing. Navigation interference. Ellis's heart pounded. This wasn't just embezzlement. They were flying planes with false guidance systems. He turned. The vault door was closing. Automatic lock. Then footsteps. He ducked behind the server rack. A figure stepped in. Tall. Thin. Raincoat. Didn't speak. Just walked to the terminal Ellis had used. Checked the log. Stopped. Ellis reached for the fire extinguisher. Held his breath. Then his phone buzzed. The man turned instantly. Their eyes met. Ellis swung. Crack. The man dropped. Ellis bolted. He didn't stop running until he reached the train station. Crowded. Safe. He bought a burner phone. Texted Janine. I know what they did. Flight logs were altered. Planes were compromised. She responded. Fletcher's gone. Left the building in a rush. Said something about Phase 2. Ellis didn't like that. Not at all. He ducked into a restroom. Locked the door. Looked at himself in the mirror. This wasn't about a smear campaign. This was something else. Bigger. Worse. They'd tried to kill him. Covered it up. Lied to shareholders. Endangered lives. And now Phase 2. What did that mean? He sat down. Pulled out the drive again. There was one more folder. Password locked. Labeled reprisal. He entered the last master code. Access denied. Tried again. Still denied. Then the screen flickered. New message popped up. You open this, you die next. The screen went black. Ellis sat frozen in the conference room, blood pounding in his ears. The footage had cut off mid-confession. Senator Delaney's face still burned in his mind. The smirk. The name he dropped. Brennan Locke. Ellis's general counsel. He felt the walls closing in. The boardroom lights buzzed above him, flickering like warning signs. Hollow silence. Then, Sir, Denise's voice cracked over the intercom. They're waiting outside. Who? Press. FBI. Someone from Homeland. They all want a word. Ellis stood slowly. His reflection in the dark screen looked 10 years older. He stepped out into the hallway. Flashes exploded. Reporters shouted his name. Ellis, did you know your own lawyer was working against you? He kept walking. No comment. Not yet. Not until he understood why. Denise caught up to him near the elevators. Brennan's missing, she whispered. Didn't show for his morning briefing. His office was wiped clean. What? Clean, Ellis. Like he was never there. He didn't answer. Just stepped into the elevator. Pressed for the executive floor. The doors slid shut. Locke was part of it. That name, spoken by Delaney like a final blow. Brennan had access to everything. Shareholder strategies. Legal defenses. Crisis protocols. He could have fed the committee everything. Timelines. Motives. Internal chaos. Ellis clenched his jaw. Why? Upstairs, the executive suite was quiet. Too quiet. His office door was open. He stepped in and froze. The place was ransacked. Files pulled. Cabinets open. Desk drawers gutted. But one thing remained. A note. Taped to his chair. Scrawled in jagged pen. Ask your father about June 4th. His breath caught. He reached for the note like it might bite. Read it again. Ask your father? But his father died 5 years ago. Ellis looked around. Slowly. This was personal now. Not just sabotage. Not just corporate destruction. This was history clawing back from the grave. June 4th. He tore through old files that night. At home. Alone. Denise had begged him to go to a hotel, but he refused. He needed his own space. His own ghosts. Buried in a storage box behind the wine cellar, he found it. A weathered folder. Yellowing edges. Labeled in black marker. Crane Acquisition, 1986. He remembered that name. Crane Air. The last regional holdout in the Northeast before Daystar went national. His father had led that buyout. Swore it was clean. Inside, contracts. Bank memos. Correspondences. Then one thing caught his eye. A ledger. With an entry dated June 4th, 1986. It read, final payout delivered. Handoff complete. Seal approved. Notify Delaney. Delaney. Ellis's hands trembled. His father knew Delaney? This went back decades? Then another name. On a typed memo. Brennan Locke. As junior counsel. Ellis reeled. Brennan had worked with his father. All those years ago. He'd been there from the start. This wasn't betrayal. This was legacy. A long, slow rot from the inside. The next morning, the feds swarmed Daystar's headquarters. They weren't asking questions anymore. They were collecting. Hard drives. Servers. Phones. Ellis met them on the executive floor, surrounded by silence. One of them, Agent Sorensen, pulled him aside. You're not under arrest, he said quietly. But you need to see something. They showed him footage. From a traffic cam. Night before. Outside Brennan Locke's condo. A black sedan. Unmarked. For men dragging something heavy into the trunk. License plate, scratched out. Ellis stared at the screen. You think he's dead? He asked. The agent didn't answer. But his silence screamed. 2 days later, Ellis received a package. No return address. Inside, a single USB drive. No markings. No note. Just a drive. He plugged it in with trembling fingers. One file. A video. It opened to a darkened room. Camera shaky. Pointed at a desk. A man seated. Face in shadow. Then, he leaned forward. Ellis gasped. Brennan Locke. Gaunt. Eyes bloodshot. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. He spoke, voice low and ragged. I don't know how much time I have. If you're seeing this, I'm either dead or disappeared. Probably both. He looked into the camera. I worked for your father. I worked for you. I lied to both of you. Ellis couldn't breathe. I did what they asked. I scrubbed records. I buried acquisitions. I passed notes under doors. I told myself it was for survival. Locke paused. Swallowed. But it was about more than Daystar. You think it's about airlines? It's not. It's about control. Airspace. Infrastructure. Routes. Money, yes, but more than money. It's about who owns the skies. He laughed bitter. Your father made a deal. A dark one. With Delaney. With others. To build Daystar as a shell. A front. For military contractors. Lobbyists. Surveillance deals. Ellis's pulse hammered in his chest. You weren't supposed to take the CEO seat. That was never part of the plan. You upset the structure. Started asking questions. Rebuilding departments. Undoing what they put in place. He looked directly at the camera. They couldn't let that stand. A deep breath. I left you a ledger. You'll find it inside the original Crane folder. Second sleeve. Hidden under the cardboard. It's everything. Routes. Contracts. Names. Payouts. If you expose it, they'll come for you. Locke leaned in, eyes wild. But don't stop. Burn it down. Do what your father never had the guts to do. The screen cut to black. Ellis found the sleeve. The ledger was there. 100 names. Half in code. Half recognizable. One circled in red. Hudson Trace Logistics. He knew that name. A shell company tied to air freight contracts across the East Coast. He pulled his phone. Called Denise. Get me everything you can on Hudson Trace. I don't care how. Ellis, she said. That company dissolved 5 years ago. No, he said, staring at the name. It didn't. They just changed the name. That night, he broke into the logistics hub outside Southbridge. No guards. Just a massive hangar. Rows of containers. Untouched. He walked through with a flashlight. Echoes following him. He cracked open the nearest crate. Military-grade tech. Surveillance drones. Unregistered. The next crate? Satellite equipment. The next? Hard drives. Thousands of them. Stamped with the Daystar logo. But Ellis had never approved any of these. This was not civilian work. It was war gear. Moved under cover of his airline. Footsteps behind him. He turned fast. Light caught a shadow. Denise. Breathless. They know you're here, she hissed. You have to go. I found it, he whispered. Everything. This is what they built. This is what they killed to protect. She reached into her coat. Handed him a drive. Backups, she said. I copied everything I could. Flight manifests. Drop locations. Hidden accounts. You knew. She hesitated. Then nodded. I was trying to protect you. A light flicked on above them. Ellis froze. A man stepped out from behind a crate. Dark suit. Pale face. Gun in hand. You should have stayed in the boardroom, Mr. Drayton. Ellis stared at him. Recognized him. Delaney's fixer. He'd seen him before. At his father's funeral. Ellis didn't blink. Didn't move. Denise's hand went toward her coat again, but stopped. The man raised the gun. Ellis spoke. Go ahead, he said, voice flat. Shoot me, but you won't kill the truth. The man smirked. Pulled the trigger. Nothing. Click. Gun jammed. Denise lunged. Tackled him. The gun clattered to the floor. Ellis grabbed it. Pointed it at the man. Breathing hard. You just lost, Ellis said. The man laughed. You don't get it. You're already too late. Sirens wailed in the distance. Growing louder. Ellis turned to Denise. You called them? She nodded. 3 agencies. They're 5 minutes out. But the man's final words chilled the room. You don't know who's really behind this. Delaney was just a face. A puppet. You've seen nothing yet. And then he said the name. One Ellis had never heard before. One that froze Denise's face. One that tied everything together. Palomir. The name hung in the air. Palomir. Ellis didn't recognize it, but Denise's face turned to stone. The sirens grew louder. Closer. The man on the ground, Delaney's fixer, smiled through bleeding lips. You won't even make it to court, he hissed. They'll erase everything before the first subpoena drops. Ellis aimed the gun lower, just above his kneecap. Who's Palomir? He asked. The man laughed. Didn't answer. But Ellis didn't need him to, because Denise was already walking away. Fast. Toward the dark crates stacked near the hangar's back wall. She knew something. Ellis followed. Behind the last row, tucked in a metal compartment, she stopped. Keyed in a code on a hidden panel. The compartment hissed open. Inside, an old-style briefcase. Steel-plated. Cold to the touch. She didn't look at him. I wasn't supposed to show you this. Ellis stared at the case. What is it? She opened it. Documents. Dozens. Each stamped with the same black seal. A falcon. And beneath it, Palomir Directive. Ellis flipped through the files. Classified memos. Military liaisons. Surveillance maps. Airspace corridors. Embedded corporate structures. And then, a page marked. Civilian Compliance Targets, 2025. His name was on it. Drayton Ellis, Contingency Tier 2. Ellis stepped back. His hands shook. What is this? He asked. Denise didn't answer. Not right away. Then, this goes beyond Daystar, she said. It always did. She pulled a thumb drive from the lining of the case. I found the directive after your father died. He left it hidden in a compartment under his private jet. I didn't understand it then. Ellis stared at her. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was trying to protect what he built. You think he built this? Denise nodded, slowly. He didn't have a choice. Ellis turned away. Looked at the crates. The cold steel walls. The buried truths. It all made sense now. His father had made a deal. One he couldn't break. Daystar wasn't just a company. It was a corridor, a network of airspace surveillance and covert transport, set up under the cover of a thriving commercial airline. Palomir was the real owner, a deep state wing hidden behind corporate shells and military offshoots. Ellis wasn't the CEO. He was the final leak. The FBI arrived minutes later. Ellis handed over the case, the thumb drive, and the man who'd tried to kill him. He gave a full statement. 3 agents took his name. One asked if he had a lawyer. He just shook his head. "Make sure the media gets this," he said, pointing to the drive. "All of it, unedited." The agents exchanged glances. "You sure about that?" one asked. "You'll be lighting a fuse." "Let it burn," Ellis replied. The headlines exploded 2 days later. Airline CEO exposes military-backed surveillance ring. Daystar, the company built to spy. Who is Palomir? The backlash was immediate. Congress scrambled. Dozens of resignations. Investigations launched. Subpoenas issued. But something deeper shifted, too. People began asking questions about airspace rights, military flight patterns, who controlled the skies. And for once, they got answers. Partial. Redacted. But answers. Denise disappeared the week after. No trace. Her apartment cleared. Phone disconnected. Ellis filed a report, but no one followed up. Not seriously. He got a call at 3 a.m. 2 nights later. No caller ID. Just her voice. "I had to go," she said. "They know I gave it to you. I won't be safe until this all falls apart." "I'll find you," he said. "No, you won't." The line went dead. In the months that followed, Daystar's board tried to vote Ellis out. They failed. He showed them the same directive. They backed down. Then he dismantled it all. Every shell company, every subcontractor tied to Palomir, grounded freight flights, terminated secret contracts, turned everything over to federal investigators. He was labeled a traitor in some circles, a whistleblower in others. But he didn't care, because for the first time, the skies felt his again. Not theirs. A year later, on June 4th, Ellis returned to the hangar where it all ended. The crates were gone. The lights were off. Just cold wind and silence. He stood where the gun had jammed, where Denise had tackled the fixer, and thought of his father. What he knew, what he'd hidden, what he'd passed down. Ellis never got closure, but he got the truth, and that was enough. As he turned to leave, he saw something on the floor. A feather. White. Clean. Undisturbed. He bent to pick it up, turned it over. A tiny symbol burned into the base. The falcon. Palomir's mark. Even in retreat, they were watching. Even in exposure, they weren't finished. Ellis pocketed the feather and walked back into the daylight. Head high. The sky above him. Wide. Open. For now.